Out in the AL West to Oakland for the Rangers and A's.
The weather is ideal. It is a beautiful day in early August here in Oakland, California. And this good matchup in the AL West. The Texas Rangers are in town taking on the first place Oakland A's. That's your matchup on the Fox Saturday Baseball Game of the Week. And now welcome inside the broadcast booth, everybody. I'm Joe Buck. Tim McCarver's coming up in just a little bit. It'll be Kenny Rosenthal as well. Well, at the beginning of the week, this looked like a make-or-break series for the Texas Rangers because of where they sat in the division. On Tuesday morning, they were 6 games out. Well, a lot has changed in the division. Now just 2.5 games out are the Rangers. They won here last night. And, Tim, as you look at this matchup and you look at the A's, they had that great charge the second half of last year, and they just seem to be able to piece it together. No matter what hits them, they are a tough club to beat.
Earning baseball's admiration, being the little engine that could. How do they do it? They do it with timely hitting, not a lot, but timely hitting and good pitching.
Yeah, good young pitching, and we'll see Jared Parker on the mound today for the A's. On the other side, you've got the Texas Rangers. They've been riding a roller coaster all season long. It's right now at the top because they're red hot.
Why, 2 months ago, people in baseball were talking about how the Texas Rangers were the best team in baseball. Then they disappeared, and lately they have shown up like 5 days ago.
Yeah, they have won their last 5. They're right there in the division. It's a good matchup both on the mound and in the dugouts. We battle in the American League West. It's the Texas Rangers. It's the Oakland Athletics, and it's all yours next on Fox. Mostly sunny, and it is a tough sun field here in Oakland. It's also a tough ball club to play as they lead the AL West by 2.5 games over the Texas Rangers, and it was Tuesday morning. The Rangers were 6 games out, but it's been a good week. And here they are, 2.5 out with today's game and 1 to go tomorrow. The opening pitch will be brought to you by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. Let's take a look at the lineup for the Texas Rangers. It's brought to you by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Moss. Leonis Martin is leading it off in center field. Then Elvis Andrus bats second at short. Ian Kinsler hits third at second base. The DH is Adrian Beltre. Nelson Cruz in right. David Murphy in left. Giovanni Soto does the catching. Jurickson Profar is at third. And Mitch Moreland is at first base, batting in the number 9 spot. And here is one of the very good young pitchers that the A's feature, the right-hander, Jared Parker.
You can see those 21 starts. In 9 of his 21 starts, he has gone 7 or more innings. And that's more the case with all of the Oakland Athletics pitchers. Borrowing a word from Nolan Ryan, who runs the Texas Rangers, pitch deep into the game. He hasn't lost since May 22nd. His changeup acts like a splitter. It goes down. And as we said, 7+ innings, 9 of his 21 starts.
He is 24 years old. He was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And as I mentioned, one of the group of good young pitchers that the A's feature. They made a roster move today by sending out last night's starter Tommy Malone, which was a bit of a shock. He's a .500 pitcher, but 9-9, and a big part of their recent success here with Oakland. They added to their bullpen, the A's did, by bringing up Evan Scribner. But this group is leading the West and fun to watch. And we'll give you, while we get the opportunity here before the first pitch, the Ford keys to the game.
Boy, these are brilliant. For the Rangers, stay hot. For the Athletics, more magic in the air.
Stay hot, exclamation. More magic in the air. How about for the outfielders here with the A's, or really any team coming through here playing a day game on a day like this? And Cespedes out in left, Crispin center, Reddick in right, Donaldson, Sogard, Cayaspo, and Moss on the infield, with Vogt doing the catching. Jared Parker on the mound. It's been a rough week for fly balls and people trying to catch him in this ballpark.
Oh, man, it is the toughest ballpark in baseball to zero in on pop fly.
Here's Martin. He leads it off and takes a strike. It'll be Martin, then Andrews, then Kinsler against the right-hander Parker, who is 6-6 overall. That's ripped into the corner, and this ball is going to get down, go to the wall. And by the time Reddick gets it back into the infield, it's an easy stand-up double for Martin, and that's the way this ball game begins.
6th time in a row that Martin has started in that leadoff spot. Ian Kinsler, their fine second baseman, moved to the 3-hole, and Martin starts this game off with a double.
Yeah, a few things happened. First, the manager for the Rangers, Ron Washington, had about a 45-minute closed-door meeting after a lackluster loss on Sunday. He switched his lineup around. He's put Martin in that leadoff spot. As you said, he's moved Kinsler down, and this lineup and this group is taken off. A leadoff double. Now the batter is Andrews, who's got a 15-game hitting streak, and he takes a strike. Elvis hitting .255. Was really sputtering into the All-Star break, but he's excited he's got 2 months left to try and turn this into a positive season for a club that's trying to fight their way back to the top of the division. Here's the 0-1 from Parker. Up and in, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Elvis Andrus, an ideal number 2 hitter with a man on second and nobody out. His natural stroke is to right field, trying to push that runner to third base.
They're pulled in on the corners of the infield for the A's, as Elvis waits and now tries to drop one down and fouls it. Strike 2. The home plate umpire is Dale Scott. He's the crew chief. He's joined by Bill Miller at first base, C.B. Bucknor at second, and Quinn Wilcott over at third. They like to have fun on the field, the A's, in the dugout. in the clubhouse, and these fans have a ball in the stands when they're watching their team. It's been on a great roll since last July 1st as Parker gives a look back at Martine.
There is not a speck of the corporate approach with the Oakland Athletics. I think that's the one thing that these fans in the Oakland area have really grabbed hold of with this team, starting with the beginning of last year. They're fun.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. A swing and a miss, and a big strikeout for Parker with a runner at second, now 1 out, as Elvis Andrus does not advance the runner. 1 away.
That's how you prevent a guy going to right field. You pitch him inside. That way, if he goes the other way, you can break his bat. He's not going to go that way with authority. Elvis upset that he swung at ball 2.
Now it's Kinsler digging in with Beltre on deck. Rangers trying to take advantage of that leadoff double. Texas comes in as a group hitting .262. That's the 5th best mark in the American League. Parker brings it and finds strike 1.
Not a good idea to try to steal third with nobody out, but it's a good idea to try with 1 out, and Martine with great speed at second base.
Ken Rosenthal is with us in that corner of the unprotected dugout here in Oakland. You saw that last stat and how Parker has struggled in the first inning. Here's a 1-hop. What a pick. That is Sogard, and he gets out number 2. That was not an easy play, and Eric Sogard made it look easy for the second out.
In between hop with the backhand. We asked Bob Melvin about Sogard. He said he is a middle infielder. He plays short as well as he does second, and he just showed how. Good play.
So glasses on. They call it nerd power around here in Oakland. He makes that play, and now Martinez at second with 2 out. He was there with nobody out, and the batter is Adrian Beltre. Ball 1. You had a nice chat with Ron Washington before the game about the importance of this player since he's come to the Rangers.
And Ron can't say enough about him. Said he wants to play third base. He used to complain about it a lot, but now he'll take the DH without argument. But this guy loves to play baseball.
And the complaints came when he wasn't in the lineup.
Yeah.
But he will take a DH spot, which is what he's got today. And his career numbers in a 16-year career are really impressive, and they're really almost pushing him into that Hall of Fame discussion.
No doubt about it. In his 16th year in Major League Baseball.
Here's a 2-0, and it's in for a strike, a 90-mile-an-hour fastball with good movement. It's one of the things the A's like about Jared Parker. He's got great action.
Got a cutter. He's got a sinker. A very good changeup, slider, curveball, the full regimen.
Here's strike 2. And a little more, maybe the best fastball velocity-wise he's thrown in this first inning.
Yeah, he popped that one.
92 miles per hour for strike 2, and after struggling in the first inning each of his last 2 starts, Parker's one good pitch away from getting around a leadoff double. Runner taking third, but it doesn't matter. A strikeout ends the inning. And Parker gets around a double by Martine. We're scoreless into the bottom of the first here in Oakland. The first place A's coming to bat against Matt Garza. Our producer Pete Macheska, Joe, Tim, and Ken. Here's the starting lineup for the A's, brought to you by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Moss. Coco Crisp leads it off. Then it's Sogard. He made a good play in the top of the first. Jed Lowry, the DH. Cespedes in left. Brandon Moss at first. Josh Donaldson at third. Josh Reddick in right. Cayaspo, the recent pickup from the Angels, bats eighth, and Stephen Vogt does the catching, batting ninth. And here is the right-hander that group will have to face, the former Cub, Matt Garza.
Now the Rangers got their guy, Matt Garza, the best acquisition at the trading deadline. It ended 4 days ago. And it's unusual, and we talked about this in a game we did on July 13th when Garza pitched against the Cardinals. He has a problem with routine plays, and we'll go through that as the game gets deeper. And he is October tested. He was the ALCS most valuable player in 2008 while pitching with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, for a team that got to but lost the World Series. Former 25th overall pick. And whether it's Ron Washington or the front office, these Rangers have had their eyes on Garza for a while. Bottom of the first inning, and Coco Crisp is first in there. And in the words of his manager, Bob Melvin, as Garza brings home ball one, Melvin said the numbers aren't gaudy for Coco Crisp, but he does a lot of things really well. And if there's one guy that in that clubhouse these other players take their cue from, it's Crisp.
Bob saying that when Coco Crisp does well, the A's do well.
Tries to bunt his way on. It's a beauty and a hit.
And if Adrian Beltre playing in can't make the play, nobody can. I beg your pardon, Jurickson Profar is playing third. So used to seeing Adrian Beltre down there, but Profar, what a play, and couldn't get the speedy Crisp.
So Crisp is on to start the day, and Sogard will be the hitter. But nothing for Profar to do with it. Sogard, Lowry, and Yoenis Cespedes will try to push Crisp around the bases. Bottom of the first inning, no score, and Garza brings it. Sogard tries to bunt right side. It's a good one. One out, and there is Garza lobbing it over the runner, but actually made a good play for the first out here in the bottom of the first.
He did, and as we explained in the scouting report, good plays by Garza on routine plays are anything but routine. Fine bunt by Sogard. And you can see a little flip right there. In fact, this is Garza's third start for the Rangers. His first start against the New York Yankees, he made such a play, throwing a rather routine play away that sent the runner to third base and set up the only run the Yankees scored as the Rangers won 3-1.
It's a sacrifice with Garza getting the out at first and Jed Lowry the DH. With a runner at second, one out. And that's a little floater into left field. That ball will get down for a base hit. The A's take the lead on a leadoff bunt, a sacrifice bunt, and a blue pit by Lowry. 1-0 Oakland.
The Athletics scored 2 in the top of the first in last night's game, but lost an onslaught by the Texas Bats. A's lost 8-3. They score first again this afternoon. Crisp scoring easily.
So Coco is in. It's a 1-0 Oakland lead, and the batter will be Yoenis Cespedes, who caught the attention of Tim McCarver yesterday during batting practice.
I am telling you, he was cranking balls out of this stadium, making this look like a bandbox, and it is a tough park in which to homer. The only other guy I saw small up a ballpark in batting practice was Mark McGwire in 1998. This guy was hitting 480, 490 feet balls out of the ballpark, way over everything.
Here's a fly ball into left center field. Back at the wall. It is gone. And Cespedes has homered to make it 3-0 A's. That's number 17.
Ridiculous strength. Ridiculous.
He showed it during the home run derby. He came back, had a tweaked wrist. And the A's have to hope that he's showing some signs of life here in this lineup after getting off to that great start last year with all that he had to adjust to in the United States. Now he's had a bit of a sophomore slump. The average 229 at the start of the day, but that was home run number 17, and it gives him 52 RBIs on the year.
Bob Melvin, the A's manager, puts a lot of emphasis on that second year, particularly with the Latin American player, because there's so much to which to adjust in that first year, the second year, and then it all comes together often in year 3.
Here's Brandon Moss. He took a ball, now bunts through a pitch, strike 1.
Think about their approach. They've had a bunt for a hit, a sacrifice, and now a bunt attempt by the number 5 hitter.
But isn't this exactly the way they win games?
Yeah, it is. But about Garza, I mean, their scouting reports, it seems to me, is telling us and telling our viewing audience that they know something about Garza, and that's that fielding of routine plays.
With 1 out, nobody on, 3 runs home, a 1-2 pitch is ripped into right, a base hit. And now Brandon Moss is on with 1 out here in the first. And we'll go back to the home run swing of Cespedes.
Joe, I think he hit this with one hand. Watch the right hand fly. Nope, I was wrong. Both hands. Looked like he hit a pretty good pitch. As Jim Cott used to say, if he hit it that far, how could it be a good pitch? Good point.
Well, if there's one aspect of his game that I think you were alluding to that scouts talk about, it's bat speed.
Oh, man. Blazing through the zone.
Now the batter is Donaldson, who did just about all he could in the first half to force his way onto the All-Star team. It didn't happen, but if there's one guy offensively who's led the way, it's Donaldson.
Converted catcher playing third base, and he's got a lot of converts, believe me.
And it's not just with the bat. He is tremendous defensively.
Unless you had, or if you didn't have Evan Longoria, Manny Machado, and Adrian Beltre playing third base, he'd be a Gold Glover. That's how good he is. To be mentioned in the same breath as those guys, that's good.
He's got Moss at first. You saw that number with runners on, 364, 6th best average in baseball in that category. And Donaldson gets out and looks down at Mike Gallego, his third base coach, with a count 2-0. Moss at first, and only 1 out here in the first. Here's a 2-0. 2-1. So Garza making his third start, coming off a no decision. A team win 4-3 in the 9th inning that started 3 straight walk-off wins against the Angels on home runs. First time that's happened in franchise history. Here's one that's foul behind the plate, strike 2. So it's been a long first and a slow start for Matt Garza. Cespedes got him with a 2-run shot in left center field near the 388 mark. Here comes a 2-2 from Garza. Check swing foul. Donaldson had his second recall last August, and when he came up, He was a big reason why this A's team finished with that flourish, winning their last 6 games and taking the AL West.
He defines the A's as far as maximizing his talents.
He waits for a 2-2 from Garza. And he's been grabbing at that left shoulder or just behind the left shoulder after just about every swing.
I think he's more or less trying to remind himself to keep that shoulder in there. It's the biggest part of hitting is the front shoulder. Once your ability is established, you've got to keep the front shoulder in.
Breaking ball stays up and in a full count. So now we'll see how the A's want to play it.
Got to send him.
They've got Moss at first, 1 out in the inning and a full count. You expect to see him take off. He stays put, and it's strike 3 called over the outside corner, 2 out. Home plate umpire Dale Scott rings up Donaldson on a borderline pitch up and away.
That's a very, very important area for Garza, because home plate umpire Dale Scott gave him that outside pitch. Very close. But as Joe Torre used to say, never let a pitcher get you out with 2 strikes on a pitch away.
Well framed by Soto, the catcher for the Rangers in this one. Pierzynski starts the day on the bench. The batter is Josh Reddick. Reddick just 5 home runs, hitting .213, hit 32 home runs last year. Waits for a 1-0 and takes low 2-0.
Funny how the running game can affect an offense. I mean, if Moss is running on that 3-2 pitch, maybe Donaldson, in trying to protect him, swings at that borderline slider. But he took it for the second out.
1 on, 2 out. 2-1 the count on Reddick. Former Boston Red Sox outfielder, and he was a part of the Bailey trade. He came out of nowhere and looked like a complete steal for the Oakland A's last year, and I guess you have to consider it so for a team that won the division, and he was such a big part of it. He pops it into left. Murphy is there fighting that sun and that high sky, and that ends the inning. But it's Yoenis Cespedes showing his power, down to get it, over the wall in left center, and the first place A's are on top after 1. 3-zip. presented by Budweiser, sponsored by the 2013 Ford F-150 with EcoBoost, and by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Moss. Cespedes has gone deep. It's a 3-0 A's lead. And Nelson Cruz is about to dig his way in to lead it off. Ken Rosenthal is with us, and there's obviously news swirling around baseball, as there seemingly has been since spring training ended, about this whole biogenesis scandal that's gone on, and these Major League Baseball players that are on a list as having visited and used products that were supplied by that anti-aging clinic, as the count evens at a ball and a strike. Nelson Cruz is evidently on that list. There's no secret there. Nobody seems to even dispute that. Whenever the suspensions are handed down, it's decision time for Nelson Cruz as he chops one foul. If he accepts the terms of what seems to be a 50-game suspension heading his way, it takes him out of the rest of the regular season, which presents a couple of issues for him personally and the team in general, which we'll try to get into. 1 ball, 2 strikes as Cruz takes low, and they count 2-2. If he appeals the suspension and plays, that helps the Rangers, but then that pushes any suspension off until next season. He is a free agent to be, so that could cost him a lot of money in the offseason, as you would think a suspension would anyway. Here's one into left, and Cespedes is there for out number 1. And so then the question is, if you're Nelson Cruz, do you appeal the suspension and play the rest of the way and trying to help your organization get to the postseason yet again, or do you accept the terms of the suspension, get it out of the way, and roll into the offseason as a tainted but an unrestricted free agent with regard to not just teams that he's tied to, but without a suspension looming for next season?
I think it's all boiled down to a money grab. The teams be darned.
Here's a strike. So you say he sits out?
Yes, I do. I think that's what happened in Braun's case. He accepted the 65-game suspension after signing that big contract. He loses $3 million. I think that's exactly what will happen eventually to A-Rod and Nelson Cruz. How can I serve the suspension and still make the most money? Which really cast a different, worse curtain over the whole thing to begin with, or to end up with.
1 ball, 1 strike on David Murphy, now strike 2. Ken Rosenthal is with us. Ken, do you get a sense that the Rangers have an idea as to what Nelson Cruz will opt to do when that suspension is handed down?
Joe, I don't get a sense. And the one thing that we should say here is a huge difference between what Cruz is facing and what Braun ultimately decided. Braun's team was out of contention. Cruz's team is in the middle of a race. So if he decided to accept the suspension, he would effectively be abandoning his teammates. And that's the thing that he has struggled with here, and that is the crux of this decision. Now, Tim is right. I'm sure he's getting a lot of advice to take the suspension right now, set himself up for free agency, but it's not as simple as it was with Braun.
Murphy waits for a 1-2 pitch from Jared Parker, who got around to leadoff double in the first inning, and then his teammates went to work by picking up 3 off Garza. That's down and away, and the count evens 2-2. But then there's A-Rod, who's in his own world with regard to this biogenesis situation, and part of a Yankees team that right now is 8.5 games out in the division, as Murphy fouls another one away. But when you read about Alex Rodriguez, as we talked about last week, Kenny, Tim, you weren't there, but we were talking about, there's so many sides to it. Does he want to play? Do the Yankees even want him to play?
Yeah.
How much money can they save on the contract? Does baseball want him back in the game at all? And Is it going to be a lifetime ban? Is it going to be a 2-year ban? What's it going to be when it's finally handed down? Here's a 2-2 pitch outside, and a pretty good at bat here put together by Murphy. Counts full 3-2. 1 out, nobody on. Murphy up, Soto on deck. And Jared Parker, the 6-game winner, twirls home a 3-2, and he gets a foul tip to keep the at bat alive.
Baseball pedicure.
Right off the right foot. Off the bat. We'll go back down to Kenny after Murphy does something here with this next 3-2 pitch. David Murphy, a .304 hitter a year ago, is at .227. He and Mitch Moreland have got to pick it up, in my opinion, no matter what happens with Cruz.
You're right.
If the Rangers are going to have any chance. Here's another good play by Sogard, but can't get it to first in time. Good job on the pickup. The throw was late, and Murphy, after taking that foul tip off his right foot, is limping, getting back to the bag.
It's amazing how your foot feels after hitting one off of it when you hit a ball that could be an infield base hit. So it is. Good play by Sogard. He did all he could.
Ken Rosenthal, you're down there in the corner of the dugout as we look at one more replay of Murphy getting on. Any more news or any updates on the A-Rod situation here on Saturday?
New York Daily News is reporting that A-Rod is going to get hit with a suspension that will last the rest of this season and next season. Now, I know people have heard about this for days and weeks, but the difference is, according to the Daily News, and this is unconfirmed, baseball was furious with A-Rod's comments last night, which insinuated that the Yankees and MLB were trying to keep him off the field. And as a result, baseball has ended negotiations for a settlement. They're simply going to suspend A-Rod for this season and next tomorrow. Now, I should add as well, A-Rod has said at various points to different people that he plans to fight this thing to the end, which means he plans to appeal.
1 on, 1 out, and here's one ripped into the corner, foul off the bat of Soto, who has been a hot hitter.
So if you appeal, I assume you can continue playing, or A-Rod can come back, right? Not necessarily under these circumstances.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, if you're talking about suspending a guy who's had both hips operated on for the rest of this year and next, you're talking about a 39-year-old player when he comes back. I mean,
that's right.
In essence, it's not a quote unquote lifetime ban, but it may be.
But it may be in essence.
In essence, a lifetime ban. Here's the 0-2. Ball 1.
Guys, it remains to be seen whether he will be able to play through his appeal or not. If he is suspended under the joint drug agreement, yes. But if he is suspended as well under the collective bargaining agreement, 2 different agreements with the union, then it may be a situation where he cannot play through the appeal. So we will have to wait and see the nature of the suspension. But Braun was suspended under both the CBA and the joint drug agreement.
1 on, 1 out. The 1-2 pitch is swung on and missed as Parker pulled the string. 2 out.
You know, Joe, any way you cut it, what a murky mess.
And you're talking about a guy who, as we watch the Texas Rangers play here, when he went to Texas on that 10-year, $252 million contract, at that point, I mean, this was a guy who was an unbelievable shortstop.
Oh, maybe the best ever.
Let alone what he did with the bat, with power, with average, at speed. I mean, it was all there.
Yeah.
1 on, 2 out. The batter is Profar, the switch hitting rookie, and he takes ball 1. But this thing is finally coming to a head, and what has been just an absolute drama at every turn with the Yankees and Alex Rodriguez all season long, whether it's been a tweet that he sent out, whether it's been comments that have been made by him, comments that have been made in response by Brian Cashman, the general manager of the Yankees. just losing his patience with the entire situation. The Yankees trying to get off the hook for a lot of the money that they owe him.
Big article in Sports Illustrated about A-Rod. He was on the cover this last week. He called his own press conference in Trenton last night. That's an affiliate, a minor league affiliate of the Yankees, of course. And Ken referred to that, making those remarks that infuriated Major League Baseball.
1 ball, 1 strike on Profar. Rangers batting in the second, down by 3, and that's ball 2. Jurickson came up on May 19th. First 19 games, hit .292, but just over 200 since. They toyed with the idea of getting him at bats by putting him in the outfield, and they've cooled on that. Here's a 2-1. 2-2. He started this season rated the #1 prospect in all of baseball. He is a middle infielder and trying to learn the outfield on the fly. Gary Pettis has been trying to teach him the ins and outs of covering an outfield from whatever spot. And a guy who's really a shortstop. He moved to second some, and now he's making his 6th start at third base here today. He gets a pretty good rip on a pitch up and in. 93 from Parker, and the count stays 2-2.
I thought Ken asked Wash a very good question in our meeting before the game. Will Profar in the future be considered in left field? Wash said no. He is an infielder.
There's Gary Pettis, who's been trying his best to try and help out Profar learn the outfield as he's a little bit off balance and flicks it into right center. Crisp is there, and we go into the bottom of the second. A's coming up. Cayaspo, Vogt Crisp will bat up by 3. Official beer of Major League Baseball. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. Beautiful day in Oakland as we go into the bottom of the second. Chevrolet is the official vehicle of Major League Baseball. They're celebrating a new season for new memories. For your chance to win a community field makeover and an all-new 2014 Impala, visit ChevyBaseball.com. Here's Cayaspo. Nice pickup by general manager Billy Beane when he got him from the A's. So a trade made in the division, and Callaspo, who played a lot of third base for the Angels, is now going to go back to what he considers his original position, second base, a position that he hadn't played since 2010 prior to being picked up by the A's.
When Callaspo made his major league debut back in 2006, Bob, Melvin was his manager. So Melvin knows him very, very well.
And here is a 1-1 pitch from Garza, and he spins on it, hits it into the corner. Back at the track, it's Cruz with a catch for out number 1. Nelson Cruz just ran a mile to make that catch. And up against the wall, able to hang on, 1 down.
Yeah, it was a good play by Nelson, and this is a play that he did not make in last night's ball game. A game won by the Rangers, so it didn't matter. But this one matters. Nice.
So Cruz makes the catch, 1 out, nobody on, and Stephen Vogt is at the plate. Vogt got off to a 7-0 start when he was behind the plate. That streak was snapped his last time. He's 7-1 when he starts behind the plate, hitting just 200. But the A's, while they have employed 3 catchers at the big league level along with Derek Norris and John Jaso, have a pretty good on-base percentage from that position, from the catching position. That's a strike in the count, 1-2.
And what you just said about Stephen, that he's 8-1 when he's behind the plate, no other position in baseball can take satisfaction with that. If you're a center fielder, you're worried about your hitting. Same with first, second, short, right field, left field, but not catching. A lot of satisfaction when you win, as opposed to having good offensive games.
A strikeout is the second by Garza. 2 out here in the second, and Coco Crisp, who got on with a perfect bunt base hit his first time, is digging in following the strikeout of Vogt. He got on, was bunted to second by Sogard, scored on a hit by Lowry, and Lowry was able to just trot around the bases as Cespedes dropped one over the wall in left center field for a 2-run shot and a 3-0 lead. Strike 1. As Coco Crisp has had a rather long and pretty good career at the big league level.
He has. Started with the Cardinals in their minor league system, trained very well, and I'm sure he's thankful for that training right now. Good training at the beginning can really help you in your waning years. Not that Coco's waning, but in the latter years it helps a lot.
He's 33 years old. He waits for a 1-1, fouls it away, strike 2. He originally got to the big leagues after leaving the Cardinal organization with Cleveland. Some good years there, and then was a part of a World Series winner in Boston in 07. A year in Kansas City, but since 2010 he's been in Oakland. He waits for a 1-2 from Garza. And able to hold off on ball 2 up and away.
You know, Coco Crisp career as a center fielder is kind of like Bob Melvin's as a manager. Everything's all come together, and they're putting their experience into play here.
A check swing on a pitch down and in, didn't go, a full count. We're going to talk to Bob Melvin at the end of this inning and play it next half inning. But for Bob, who was in Seattle as manager in 03-04, Arizona from 05 to 2009, in his second full year, a smart man, and he's done a very good job with the A's. As Crisp lines one to Murphy, and the inning is over. Garza sets him down 1-2-3. Third inning rolls in Oakland, 3-0 A's. Back after this from your local Fox station. by Budweiser. Three 3-0 game after 2 innings, and for the Rangers, who have won 5 straight prior to that, had lost 12 of 15. They have Moreland leading it off, then Leonis Martin and Elvis Andrus against Jared Parker. Gave a leadoff double in the first, a 1-out single in the second, but he and the A's lead 3-zip. Good fastball for strike 1. Parker came from the Diamondbacks with pitcher Ryan Cook and outfielder Colin Cowgill for Trevor Cahill and Craig Breslow back in December of 2011. That's strike 2. And you can see Parker settling into this afternoon's ball game after that leadoff double.
Settling into a 3-run lead.
Yeah, that helps.
Yes.
Moreland went on the disabled list in June for a bad right hamstring, and he has not hit at all really since coming back, and the Rangers need him to get going. Had a couple of good games this week, but they need consistent production out of a big piece of their offense.
Hal Smith, an old Cardinal catcher, used to say if a guy has a hamstring problem, don't pitch him inside because he has trouble reaching for the ball.
Here's a fly ball into left toward the corner. It's Cespedes, 1 out. And here is Bob Melvin, manager of the A's. First question was about his starter Parker and that he's brought good stuff to the ballpark.
Yeah, like most starting pitchers, you know, you can get them a little bit early before they get into the rhythm. Once they get into the rhythm, they're a little tougher to deal with. So it was good to see him get around that.
It's a nice story with you wearing number 6 in honor of Sal Bando. Tell us about that, Bob.
Well, Sal gave me my first job in the game outside of playing, and was such a prominent figure here. It was an easy call to wear the number 6 for him. And he comes out in spring training. We see him from time to time here. One of the great Oakland A's of all time.
And finally, we got a chance to see a Cespedes home run showing power on that pitch down. Man, he's fun to watch.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. You come out and watch him in BP, which is well documented, but does it in the game too, and I don't even think he got all that one.
All right, Bob, thanks.
All right, thanks.
Bob's team leading 3-0, 1 out in the top of the 3rd inning. Martin at the plate in the count 2-0.
Sal Bando, the unofficial captain of those great Oakland Athletic teams in 1972, 3, and 4. And none of them got along for the most part.
I was going to say a team that's known for success on the field and discord off the field.
You know what? I'll tell you how bad it was in 1975. I was with the Boston Red Sox. We're winning 9-2 in the top of the 5th inning. Reggie Jackson's on at 3rd with 1 out. Bando's the batter. Hits a ball to right field deep to Dwight Evans. He catches the ball, throws it to second base. Reggie Jackson's halfway. He wasn't tagging up to give Bando the RBI. You know why he wasn't tagging up? Because Sal Bando was 1 behind Reggie in the RBI team lead. So Reggie didn't want to be the tying run and give Bando the RBI. That's how bad it was. And Bando and Reggie Jackson almost came to blows in the Oakland dugout.
With good reason.
Oh, yeah.
3 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out, nobody on, and Parker brings it. Martin, who doubled his first time, fouls it away. That's hard to believe.
And they say baseball's a team game. Yeah, right.
So you're just throwing that all out right here, right now. It's about stats and.
Yes. Baseball's a very selfish game, as a matter of fact, with the exception of a batter hitting with a runner on at second base and nobody out while you're trying to push the ball the other side. There's no team play in baseball. It's all regimented around the individual. So it's not unusual. Of course, Reggie took it to another level.
Here's a pitch up and away for ball 4. Were you a selfish ball player? I don't believe that. No way.
Yes, I was.
You were.
I was, like everybody else I played with. Kurt Simmons had a comment. Kurt Simmons was a great left-handed pitcher, and he really broke it down very simply. He said, give me 25 selfish players that can play, and we'll win all the pennants in the world. It's not a team game.
Well, you're not a selfish broadcaster.
No, I'm not. I've changed.
You're
Joe.
a team guy. Somebody's picking on me, they're picking on us. Somebody's picking on you, they're picking on you. 1 on, 1 out, and the pitch is upstairs for a ball to Elvis Andrus, who struck out his first time. A 1-out walk to Leonis Martin. And out to talk is Stephen Vogt. America's new sports network. It's just around the corner. The 17th of August, Fox Sports 1. That's the debut.
You'll see teamwork in action on the 17th.
A lot of it. We're going to have a game break with Matt Vasgersian coming up after the batter. And the batter is Andrus, trying to get something going for the Rangers here in the 3rd inning. That pitch is upstairs in the count 2-0.
I'll tell you other areas of the game that do share into that team concept: a shortstop and a second baseman, a coupling, trying to get the ball to one another quickly so they're not taken out of a double play, a catcher and a pitcher. We talked about Vogt is 8-1 in his starts and feels very good about those because it's toward a winning concept. But for the most part, it's a very, very selfish sport.
Here's a 2-0 pitch. Oh, up and in, and that puts Elvis Andrus on his back. It's 3-0. Just when it started to look like Parker was really settling in and going to be tough to get to, he's issued a walk to Martin, and now he's 3-0 on Andrus. Watch the reaction of Coco Crisp out in center on that pitch up and in. And now that's low. Back-to-back walks. So now the game break. Here's Matt in the MLB Network studios.
Joe, Atlanta and Philadelphia. Brandon Beachy was roughed up in his first start in over a year earlier this week, and today's isn't going much better. John Mayberry Jr.'s 2-run home run made it 3-zip. Braves got one back, however, on Justin Upton's 19th of the year. 3-1 Phillies early. Joe, back to you and Tim.
All right, Matt, thank you. And the Atlanta Braves are just running away with the NL East. Chris Johnson red hot. And Freddie Freeman, who was the online vote winner and becoming an all-star. There's his year. They've won 8 straight games, and they have, as I said, or maybe I just thought it, an 11.5 game lead in the NL East at the start of the day.
Yeah, you thought it because it was correct.
Well, there you go. It's not always the case. Here's Ian Kinsler, 2 on, 1 out, and a chance for the Rangers to make a little bit of noise. That was pretty close. With a second baseman, Callaspo, sneaking in, but back in time was Martin. Kinsler bounced out to short. He hit it hard. It was a good play by Sogard, his first time up, and there's a strike.
Eric Sogard, speaking of Eric, he is playing straight away, and the reason shortstops do that is they want to get to the double play ball if the ball's hit to the right. I think you play Kinsler in the hole here, and you forget about getting to the second base bag, because as much as anybody, Kinsler is a pull hitter.
2 on, 1 out. That's a bit high. 1 ball, 1 strike.
As an example of that, Kinsler has 152 home runs for his career. He has hit 3 to right field of 152. Now that's a pull hitter.
Here comes a 1-1 from Jared Parker. A chance for the Rangers, and that's up and in. 2-1, and Parker, who in his last start walked 7. And no decision in a team win over the Angels on Sunday, so extra rest, a full 5 days. But he's issued back-to-back walks, and now he's behind on the count to Kinsler. 2-1. He went around 2-2.
Ian didn't want to, but did.
So the relatively new number 3 hitter Ian Kinsler waits with Beltre on deck, the DH. The 2-2. A strikeout for out number 2. And the 4th strikeout of this game for Jared Parker.
Working Kinsler inside, usually a pull hitter, likes the ball in, but Parker tying up a good hitter.
So now Beltre with 2 on, 2 out. Adrian struck out his first time. Ball 1 up and in. 369 career home runs for Adrian Beltre. If he gets number 370 right here, it's a tie game. Parker's allowed 16 on the year, and he fouls one off the catcher Vogt. 1 ball, 1 strike. We'll give you the player profile brought to you by AT&T, helping you do what you do even better. AT&T, rethink possible. There's the career, 16 years in the big leagues for Adrian Beltre, a .281 career hitter, 4-time Gold Glove Award winner, and over 1,200 RBIs. He's got 2 out there right now, 2 out. And a 1-1 pitch. Instead, Parker steps off. Beltre, who came up with the Dodgers, waits for the pitch and gets one over the head and into right. Over the head of Moss. A run scores. Here comes the trail runner who will hold at third. That's Andrews, and it's a 3-1 game. Martin scores easily. RBI for Beltre, number 63 on the year, and it's a 3-1 game here in the 3rd inning.
That's a little backup slider from Parker, and Beltre inside outs it, slips going to first base.
Number 17, Nelson Cruz.
And a key 2-out hit for the Rangers. You might say, well, that was a lucky hit. The walks weren't lucky, though.
That's what put Parker in that situation. Back-to-back walks to Martin and Andrews. Now with 2 out, Nelson Cruz grounds to third. Out at second. Inning is over. The Rangers are on the board. 1 run, 1 hit, a couple of walks, 2 left. Texas has left 4. The big guy coming up, Yoenis Cespedes. He's already homered in this game. He'll bat Going out to the ballpark, go to MLB.com/Sunday to find out special ticket offers. Bottom of the third inning. 3-1 game. Oakland on top on the strength of an RBI by Lowry and a 2-run shot by Cespedes in the first inning. We will see Yoenis in this third inning as Sogard takes the ball up and away. Eric dropped down a good sacrifice bunt in the first inning, hitting .271, and he has actually been one of the hotter hitters in this lineup since the third week of June. So hot that it's jumped him up at times into the number 2 spot in the lineup, which is where he is here, as the count evens at a ball and a strike. And you see, since the 22nd,
Nerd power.
the spectacled middle infielder's hitting .294. Going to get it is Nelson Cruz. 1 out. They have fun with Eric Sogard as they have fun with most everybody around the Oakland A's. And there's Eric with the glasses. Reggie Jackson, the aforementioned, with his glasses. You look at Dom DiMaggio, the late Darrell Porter, and Sogard, glasses on, is out number 1 here in the third inning, and a guy that really doesn't feel like he needs to go to contact lenses or get any type of surgery to improve his vision. He's going to stick with what he's got. Here is Lowry trying to bunt his way on strike 1.
Steve Horn, our information director,
What?
and I were talking about this before the game, about who was the first player to wear glasses. Well, we weren't sure who the first was, but in the early days, back in the 50s, a catcher for the Washington Senators at the time, Clint Courtney, wore glasses, and there was real concern.
Here's out number 2 as Lowry lines out to Kinsler.
There was real concern that as a catcher, Clint would take foul tips and things like that, or maybe in applying a tag at home plate, that someone would accidentally jostle the glasses and break the glasses perhaps, but that never happened. But Clint's nickname was Scrap Iron, and he was a good player for a long time.
Any player ever worn a monocle?
No.
Here's Cespedes.
Going Sherlock Holmes on us here.
Colonel Klink. Foul out of play off to the right. Strike 1.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what a monocle is, look it up.
That's right.
Waste my time with that kind of stuff. You have the internet.
I'm tired of doing all the dirty
Monocle.
work.
M-O-N-A-C-L-E. Fairly certain of that. A 1-2-3 inning. And we go to the 4th here in Oakland, where the hometown A's, the first place A's, lead it by 2. By T-Mobile, now your choice is simple. T-Mobile, unleash. And by Fox Sports 1, America's new sports network, is coming August 17th. Ron Burgundy told us that is Mount Diablo. Down in the dugout is our good friend, our postseason hero, entertainer extraordinaire.
Yes.
Who has reeled it in the last year. They've stripped him of all personality.
Ouch.
Derek, left-hander. I'm starting tomorrow. Holland. How are you, Derek?
That is quite the intro I got there. I appreciate that. Wow.
I'm not even going to put you on the spot. Make you do Harry. You did that for us in the World Series in 2011. You get any grief for that? You get applause for that? What'd you get for that?
At the time, everybody took it the wrong way. We were obviously just having a good time. I was into the game and everything. It's not like I was just doing Harry Carey.
No, and I led you into it. It was my fault.
No, and that's fine. It's
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, guys. It was great.
Yeah, it was gold. It was fun.
Live your life. Time. Live your life, young man. Don't worry about it.
Believe it. That's what I'm doing. I promise you that.
All right, 1 ball, 2 strikes on David Murphy, starting the 4th inning for Derek's Rangers, who are down by a couple. Murphy, then Soto, then Profar. If anybody gets on, Moreland, as Parker deals, and it's popped up on the infield, which is no easy thing here in Oakland, as proven by Donaldson, who had to lunge for it 1 out. Hey, we were talking to your manager, Derek, and you get the ball tomorrow, about what it's like for your team to play, obviously, in Arlington, Texas, and then to come on the road and play here with this weather. It's got to give you a little life to get some cool weather around you.
Well, when we were in Texas, the weather hasn't been as hot as it usually is. It's definitely cooled off, but it started to heat up towards the end, right before we were about to leave. And then to come here, it's like we just went to like Alaska or something. It was, those few days, it was like 100 and whatever, and then here it's like 5 degrees, it feels like, even though it's really nice.
And that's got to give you a little bit of a lift as the season drags on when you take the ball tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it. These guys got me kind of good the last time, so I want to try to go back out there and do everything I can to get our team to win.
Yeah, what's this lineup like to pitch against? Because they obviously have Cespedes, who's already proven in today's game how strong he is, but they seem to just mix and match and just kind of nick away at you. They've got to be frustrating to pitch to.
No, I mean, they may not have all the big name guys, but that's the thing is they thank you, Beltray. I needed some seats. These guys are really competitive. They got a lot of fight in them. I mean, they're in first place for a reason. They play the game great. Here, give me one more.
As a guy who throws some balls down and into right-handed batters, you got to be happy to have a guy like Adrian Beltre playing defense behind you, huh, Derek?
Oh, definitely. That guy is a Hall of Famer for sure. I mean, he's been outstanding for us. Awesome teammate, and now
he's throwing seeds at you.
I got water too. I got seeds and water from good old Beltre.
Well, tomorrow he'll have your back.
I hope so.
3 balls, 2 strikes on Soto, who struck out his first time. Parker is struck out 4, walked 2. And this one is foul left side. What do you do besides talk to annoying announcers during the game the day before you pitch? What's your pregame routine?
We don't always get to do this. We don't always get those annoying announcers.
Right. Well,
it's definitely a pleasure. Thank you guys.
Consider this your treat for this Saturday.
This is awesome. No, I mean, I watch a lot of videos, study these guys up, and then also, you learn stuff from all the other guys. Like, for instance, Martin Perez, who's sitting beside me, if he's faced them or whatnot. We talk about those kind of things, what he's done, what was successful for him.
Can you get too locked up with all that video stuff and get away from what you do by feel when you're out on the mound? I mean, you came up as, I don't care if it's Legion or Little League, or you just pitched. Do you ever get locked up with that stuff?
No, I think it's more of a benefit than anything. I mean, you get to see more weaknesses, and you can see some of their strengths too, and then also you get to visualize yourself as well being successful against these guys.
Here is a line drive base hit into center by the kid, Jurickson Profar. By the way, we found out that, and I think you guys know, Adrian Beltre hates it if you touch him on the dome, on the head.
I did not know that.
He hates it.
I'm just now learning all this stuff about him.
Now you can get him back whenever you take your headset off and go back to your day.
No, I definitely won't do that because I won't be able to smile again. It'll probably sock me right in my teeth.
Wait until after tomorrow's game, right there.
Of course. He's an abusive teammate. Good Lord.
1 on, 2 out. The batter is Mitch Moreland.
I'm thirsty.
You guys are loose down there. That's kind of the ship that Ron Washington runs, isn't it? You guys to just kind of let it go.
You got to play the game, have fun. Be who you are. Don't try to be something that you're not. We go out there and compete, but at the same time, we enjoy each other's company and have fun with it, and goof off and make fun of each other when we're out there on the field too.
Moreland flied out to left his first time up, trying to take advantage of that 2-out hit by Profar. They are shifted on the infield for Mitch, playing him to pull. And the count 0-1. I'm trying to make this last long enough for you to take us to break, Derek.
This is phenomenal.
Well, you may not realize this, Derek, but Harry Carey was an announcer here in Oakland in 1970. The year after he left the St. Louis Cardinals.
I wasn't even born then.
Well, that's why I take our word for it.
I'm going to have to do that.
Do you know what a monocle is?
I do not.
You don't know what a monocle is?
No,
like a one glass thing for like half a pair of glasses on a string.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
No,
that's beyond me.
0-1 the count. 1 on, 2 out. That pitch is down. 1 ball, 1 strike. God, I have this internal struggle of respecting your status as a big league pitcher, but at the same time just dying to want to hear. Harry,
you've got to do that, Derek. You've got to do it for our listening audience.
Don't bow to pressure. Don't bow to pressure from me. Don't bow to pressure from the outside people that want to knock you down. Just do what you want to do.
We got to get some runs here.
No. Do
1
the
ball,
impression.
1 strike. Now the count's 2-1.
We'll get to it.
All right.
We'll get to it. The moment I do it right now, I know for a fact
think
all
what could
those
happen.
Guys would.
Think what could happen. Think your team could go on maybe a 15-game winning streak coming off an impression like that.
I need to just have like a big meeting with the guys like that, and just instead of being serious, just come out and do something like that.
Yeah, change it up. Here's a 2-1. 1 on, 2 out.
Get through there.
Here's a base hit into center. Runner will hold at second. Who is that howling back there in the? Is that Beltre?
That is definitely Beltre. He's probably one of the quietest guys on the team.
Wow.
Yeah, it's there's some interesting things said there. It's definitely interesting when you're out on the mound too. If you give up a home run or something, you'll hear Beltre, "Hey, good pitch right there. That was just hit your spot right there."
So that's exactly what you want to hear.
That's how our atmosphere is. That's what I like about this team is no matter what. Thanks, man. I really wanted that. If something like that were to happen, we just goof off with each other and keep everybody loose.
2 on, 2 out. The batter is Martin. And a chance here with the tying runs aboard in the inning here in the 4th. That pitch is down.
Oh, boy.
And, we have taught A.J. Pierzynski all we can in the time we've had him in the postseason. How's he done this year for you?
He's done really well, and I've noticed that, too. I was going to say something about A.J. He looks like he has a future with you guys. Well, he could be the next annoying broadcaster.
Instead of being an annoying catcher.
He gets to add to the collection.
2 on, 2 out. 1 ball, no strikes, and that pitch is up. The count's 2-0. You still tweeting, or have you abandoned that?
No, I always do. My main thing is to try to reach out to the fans and talk to them when I can. It's always just to show them how we are as a person. I'm not some special person or anything just because I'm a baseball player or whatever. I want to reach out and let them see. I can have a conversation with them and answer their questions if they have something they want to ask.
There's a strike over the inside corner, 2-1.
Yeah.
This guy's got a chance, doesn't he, Martin? He looks like he attacks the baseball really well.
Hey, do that again. They're watching you.
Who is that?
Show me again.
Who is that over there?
That's Martin Perez.
No, not him. I'm talking about the guy at the plate.
Oh, I think you said Martin.
Yeah, this guy. The
confusing.
Guy who's swinging the bat.
Sorry. Hey, not you, man. They're talking about him. Wrong Martin. Yeah, he's definitely very talented. Great arm in the outfield, that's for sure, too. But he's definitely got it going on for sure.
He's doubled and walked in this game. He has a chance here with 2-on-2 out. The crowd jumping into it. Derek Holland on the microphone down in the dugout.
Believe it.
Runners on at first and second. The Rangers having won 5 in a row, down by 2 here in the 4th inning. And a strikeout ends the inning. Harry Carey, take us to break.
Hey, let's look for the bottom of the top of the 3rd inning, 4th inning. I don't even know what time it is. That's it. The Oakland A's retire the Rangers, hoping that the Rangers come out on top. Thanks for having us.
It's 3-1. You're the best.
Thanks, guys.
It's a 3-1 affair. The A's got 3 in the first. The Rangers got 1 in the third. And leading it off is Brandon Moss, who singled into right his first time up. Breaking ball misses from Garza, ball 1. Nice couple just got engaged down to our left. See if our director Jonathan Evans can find him. Here's the 1-0 pitch. Hard hit right side. Kinsler is there. Now he's got a game break to find him. Here comes Matty V. Matt Vasgersian with a game break.
Joe to Flushing, where new Royal Justin Maxwell is the hero. A pinch hit home run in the top of the 11th lifts Kansas City to their 10th win in their last 11 games. The Royals just 5.5 back of division-leading Detroit. Joe, back to you and Tim.
How about them? How about the AL Central and what's going on there with Cleveland right in it, and Kansas City is within shouting distance.
And the Tigers trying to fight both teams off, winning 6 in a row.
There they are, the happy couple.
That's nice. Very nice.
And the happy director. 1 out, nobody on, and Donaldson out in front of that pitch from Garza, who's retired 9 straight.
I say that's nice. I assume she said yes.
Well, yeah, I don't know that they'd be hugging like that if she said no.
Might be just friends.
You're wonderful. No. Base hit with 1 out off the bat of Donaldson. 1 on, 1 out, and the batter will be Reddick. Look at Kansas City now. They've won 10 of their last 11 games. They had the 9-game winning streak. snapped, and they're right back at it with a victory. Cleveland and our friend Terry Francona 8-2 in their last 10. Meanwhile, Detroit, they've won 6 straight and 9 out of 10. So there's no ground gaining going on in the AL Central, but just good baseball.
Well said.
Here is Reddick. Flat out to left his first time and takes the ball low.
We talked about Matt Garza being the best acquisition at the trading deadline. Well, Detroit made a pretty good trade also, getting Jose Iglesias as their everyday shortstop, just in case Johnny Peralta, their regular shortstop, is suspended with that biogenesis deal.
Here's ball 2, down and away. And I know there were minor leaguers involved, but the main piece that the Tigers gave up was Avisail Garcia. Peavy in a 3-way deal ends up in Boston, and he, by the way, will make his first Red Sox start in their game against Arizona today. That pitch is outside, and the count goes to 3-0. So a base hit by Donaldson and a 3-0 count on Reddick with Callaspo on deck. On 3-0, that's a strike. 3-1. And when you say the name Peavy, Ken Rosenthal is with us. The A's were in on Peavy, weren't they?
Yes, they were. And what happened was, ultimately, they did not want to meet the White Sox price. But what was so interesting about that trade, Joe, yes, the Tigers acquired Iglesias because of the looming suspension of Peralta. But Iglesias also fills a need for them going forward because Peralta is a free agent, likely will not be back next year. And now you've got Jose Iglesias to fill that void. The Rangers were facing the same type of situation with Cruz, and they frantically tried to get a hitter in the days before the deadline, basically put everyone on their roster available, made them available, and yet ultimately did not come up with any player that they really wanted.
There's a strike to Reddick. I think you were the first to say that Joe Nathan was on the block. Even Garza, who's getting the start after they had just picked him up from the Cubs, just because they're so worried about their hitting and being able to score runs with the suspension of Cruz looming. And how about Garza coming back and getting a strikeout after a 3-0 count? He gets Reddick 2 out in the inning.
3 of the best fastballs he's thrown this afternoon. And 3-2, just blowing it past Reddick.
So now 2 out, the batter is Callaspo. Reddick thought he had walked on that 3-1 pitch, and he is a strikeout victim for out number 2. It just proves how hard good hitting is to find. And with so many teams either being tricked into thinking that they're still in contention or good enough to catch fire and win a pennant, or maybe all of it, there are fewer teams willing to get rid of good young hitting. It's just not out there to be found. That's why Texas is hoping that Berkman doesn't retire. With 2 out, here's a strike, and they've even signed Manny Ramirez, hoping that somehow he finds 2003 magic here in 2013.
That's not going to work.
Well, I know it's not going to work.
No.
But that's how hard it is to find guys to hit.
Well, I mean, hitting is on, a steep decline as we speak. 224 shutouts this year. That's second all time through August 2nd. There have been more hitters to strike out this year than any other year in the history of the game. Even the mentality of hitters talking about driving the pitch count up. Driving the pitch count up. We talked about baseball being a selfish game. You know, if the first pitch is a good pitch, hop on it and drill it. Don't take it.
They're the strikeouts this season. That's been something that the A's have been known for, driving pitch counts up, looking at pitches. They lead Major League Baseball in walks per game, as that one hits just off the outside corner. Ball 1-1-2.
Yeah, you know, a walk is an offensive base. A strikeout is you advance no one. And guys, we've talked about this before, Joe, but You know, when guys say that a strikeout's an out is an out, that is the most foolish expression I've ever heard a major league hitter say.
Here's a line drive caught by Moreland, and the inning is over. You're just getting riled up.
A line drive's a line drive. What are you going to say?
That was a non-productive out. It was loud, but it ends the inning. It sends us into the 5th with the A's leading by 2. The 17th, America's new network. Fox Sports 1 debuts in the pitching comparison between Garza and Parker. As we move into the 5th inning, Parker drops one in for strike 1. Parker is through 4. He's allowed a run on 5 hits. Garza just had a rough first inning. But that rough first inning translated to 3 runs, and it's a 3-1 game. It'll be Andrews, then Kinsler, then Beltre. Anybody gets on Nelson Cruz. The count 1-1. Parker brings home another, and a chop to third. Easy play for Donaldson, 1 out. So Parker gets the lead man, and the batter will be Ian Kinsler.
Now batting, number 5, Ian Kinsler.
Kinsler is struck out. He's grounded out. And he tries to get on in front of Beltre, who has the Rangers' only RBI of this game. This is a young Oakland A's rotation, with the exception being Bartolo Colon. But it is a rotation that has racked up over 670 innings pitched now so far this season. That is the 3rd most in the American League, behind Detroit and Tampa Bay. The good pitching of the Tigers and the Rays. Here's a high fly ball into left. If it's fair, it's gone. It is both, and a 1-run game. Ian Kinsler with home run number 10. And it's 3-2 here in the 5th inning, as Kinsler has closed it to a 1-run game. Just launched by the Rangers' second baseman.
That's his swing. We talked about it before. That's 153 home runs now, and 3 to right field. 3. 129 times has he hit the ball to left field out of the ballpark.
The only question was, would it hook on the other side of the pole? It stayed fair.
Straightened out like a Joe Buck drive.
Yeah, not lately. Ball one inside to Adrian Beltre. So a one-run game now as Parker is allowed his 17th home run this season. That's inside, and the count 2-0. So all the lineup changes with Martin in the leadoff spot. Kinsler batting third. This 5-game winning streak as Beltre pops it up. In to get it is Reddick. 2 out. We talked about it at the beginning about how hard it is to see fly balls with this high sky and the sunshine in Oakland, and you start looking at some of the highlights. It's startling to think these are big league players that have such a tough time and can't catch pop-ups. It's just hard to see.
Yeah, and Joe almost made to look foolish in this past week. An example of that. You may remember Josh Hamilton's play last year, the 162nd game of the year between Texas and Oakland. Josh Hamilton dropped the ball, a key play as the center fielder for the Rangers at the time. He and Ron Washington had words when he came in the dugout.
First pitch of ball. Now Cruz comes up empty. 1 ball, 1 strike. You could also see the glare coming off those tarps.
Yeah.
In the upper deck.
Even to where ground balls are problems with glare in this ballpark.
Here's a 1-1. Ron Washington was a coach here for the A's, and he said we used to use it as an advantage that teams coming through here. It was such a disadvantage because they're just not used to finding the baseball with that high sky. That's inside, and the count 3-1. Cruz waits. He's 0 for 2. Here's the 3-1 from Parker. Broken bat pop up, and somebody's got to find it. That is Kai Aspo, and the inning is over. Home run by Kinsler. Right down the line. Launched. 1-run game in Oakland. 3-2. Halfway through it. Bottom of the 5th. With a number 9 man set to lead it off for the A's. Presented by Budweiser is sponsored by the all-new 2014 Chevy Silverado. Going to the bottom of the 5th inning, halfway through it. And it is time for our Domino's Oh Yes We Did game summary. A's got 3 runs in the first inning. The Rangers with solo tallies in the 3rd and the 5th. Garza has settled in. Parker has pitched into and out of a little bit of trouble, and it's a 1-run game. Here's a bunt attempt by Vogt. And you spotted it early. Obviously, the report on fielding issues for Matt Garza has been talked about, and it doesn't matter who you are in the A's lineup. You have the green light to try and bunt your way on.
Well, that's just smart. I mean, you think about the Rangers, if they get to the postseason, I mean, and Garza pitches trying to bunt, I mean, these scouts are paying attention, believe me.
Here's a nice true bounce to Moreland, 1 out. Here's what we talked about when Garza pitched against St. Louis and Chicago, and there's an issue in the first game he pitched for the Rangers. And here's the play he made in the first inning today.
Yeah, that first shot was his only error that he's made as a Texas pitcher, his 3rd start. And that first start against the New York Yankees, they scored 1 run, and that was because of the error.
Funny thing is, when we were doing that game when he was still with Chicago, and we talked to Mike Matheny, manager of the Cardinals, and said, "Are you aware of it?" He said, "Oh yeah, we are, and it's something we're thinking about." They never tested Garza.
That's right.
Here's a breaking ball that's over but low, and again an A's hitter showing bunt. Chris pulled back from ball 1.
It's like the 5th time, either a bunt. Crisp had a bunt for a base hit. They had a sacrifice, and 3 other players. So that's 5 times that they've either shown or dropped down a bunt.
Good fastball in for a strike for Matt Garza.
Joe, I talked to Mike Maddox, the pitching coach of the Rangers, yesterday, and he said, you know, it's one of the tougher plays that nobody ever talks about in baseball for all pitchers.
That bounces in, ball 2.
In fact, the Rangers teach their pitchers throughout their minor league system, because of Maddox, when they're going towards first base, to underhand the ball to the first baseman. And Mike said, how many plays with a pitcher underhanding the ball have you ever seen messed up? And I thought about it, and I said, I've never seen it messed up. I've never seen an underthrow or an overthrow by a pitcher underhanding the ball to the first baseman. But they teach that in the Rangers organization.
Here's a 2-1 pitch. Crisp gets under it, hits it in the air to right center field. Well hit. Back is Cruz. 2 out. He has already shown that he has the ability to go a long way to his left when he robbed Callaspo in the 2nd, and now he goes a long way to his right, and he's wincing after hauling that in. 2 out. He had to go a long distance the other way.
He did. That's normally a ball that a guy who can run like Martin can would make a play on, but he was shading Crisp around toward left center.
And Nelson Cruz pulled something on that.
Yeah, he did. He's not running right. Looked like a left groin or hamstring.
He came back to his spot limping, and I think, and Soto is the catcher, just looked out there and wanted to make sure that Nelson Cruz was okay. That's why Soto went out to the mound. He pointed out to Cruz and right as if to say, "Are you okay?" And Cruz said he was. Despite that, 2 out, nobody on. And here's a shot into the gap in left center field. Nice play by Murphy to get to it and hold Sogard to a 2-out single. So the inning continues, and Garza will deal with Jed Lowry.
David Murphy realizing that with 2 outs, that's the time base runners take chances. In the A's, that's the way they play, very aggressively on the bases. And a good play by David Murphy to prevent the double by Sogard.
To 1 on 2 out, Lowry is 1 for 2. And he's finally been healthy. For the first time in his career, he's been able to get over 100 games played. And he's done it here in the first week of August. And so consequently, he has career highs in runs, hits, doubles. And his average at 293 to start the day was third best among big league switch hitters, as he's now in the hole 0-2.
Have to make that distinction. Lowry is a hitter that plays shortstop and not a shortstop that hits. Hitting is his forte, not his defense.
0-2 the count, 1 on, 2 out. Kinsler down on a knee, makes the play. The inning is over. A 2-out hit. A's have left 3. Let's go to the 6th inning in Oakland. A's up by 1. Sponsored by AT&T Rethink Possible, and by Bayer Advanced Aspirin, the official pain reliever of MLB. 6th inning rolls in on a beautiful day in Oakland. It'll be Murphy, Soto, and Profar. David Murphy is 1 for 2. And as we mentioned in his first at bat, a guy who hit over 300 last year. He's in his contract year, hitting 227. Bad time for that. So he's at 229 with his hit. His single popped up. Took a ball from Jared Parker. And now ball 2, 2-0. Finale of this series will be A.J. Griffin against Derek Holland tomorrow. Griffin a 10-game winner. Holland has won 8. Trying to club one out of here with a 2-0 count. Got under it. It's a 2-1 situation for Murphy leading off in a 1-run game. 3-2 Oakland on top. On deck is Giovanni Soto. Good pitch down and in, strike 2.
That's that changeup that acts like a split finger fastball. Normally the split finger is thrown between the index finger and the middle finger, but his is thrown between the middle and the ring finger. So he almost chokes it when he throws that good changeup, and the good ones are when the bottom falls out.
100 pitches on the day so far for Parker. A little clunker back to the mound. Good pickup. 1 out. That was not an easy play, and he got it on the short hop. to get the first out here in the 6th inning. We have already visited with Derek Holland, and we want to thank him. Obviously one of our favorites to talk to anywhere. He'll take on A.J. Griffin. And for Ranger fans, you can tune into Fox Sports Southwest tomorrow for the finale of this series. Coverage starts at 2:30 Central Time. Rangers won last night 8-3. Oakland leading today 3-2. 6th inning, 1 out. Here's Soto. Struck out in his first 2 at bats. And now takes a ball.
Think about the history of the A's. They moved here from Kansas City in 1968, had those great clubs that we mentioned, world championships in 72, 3 and 4. 5 numbers up there retired. Catfish Hunter, Raleigh Fingers, Dennis Eckersley, Ricky Henderson, and Reggie Jackson. 1 number, in my opinion, is missing, and that's Tony La Russa's number, who had such enormous success here with the A's.
Here's a fly ball into right center field. 2 out. Soto's 0 for 3. And you know, saying that with me sitting next to you, you're going to get no argument out of me.
No, not with the way you feel about Tony.
No, he's such a good baseball man. He's a lifer in this game, and somebody who to this day, even though he's no longer specifically involved with one ball club working for the commissioner, he is as up to date as anybody is on the current state of Major League Baseball here on Saturday, August 3rd, 2013. Here is Profar.
Oh, boy.
That got vote.
Looked like a backswing. And we talked earlier about John Jaso, who is on the 7-day disabled list that's been extended because of his 3rd concussion suffered. And you just hope Steven is all right. But he was smacked right on the head. He does have that plastic helmet on, however. Lessened the blow.
You and Bob Melvin were talking about this type thing, not specifically on a backswing. I agree with you. It looked like the backswing of Profar got him. Derek Norris is the other catcher. He's ready to go, getting the chest protector on, but that caught Stephen Vogt, and they're testing him for, I mean, that right there tells you they're looking at concussion symptoms.
Sure.
But it's something you and Bob Melvin talked about, both former catchers, and how back in your day, whether it's Melvin or in your day, as you look at the replay, got him right on top of the head. You felt bad for a couple of days, and then you got right back in there.
Yeah, because nothing was known about concussion, certainly to the extent that is known today, driven by the National Football League, we might add. And it obviously applies to all other sports now, but particularly, again, behind the plate. And you think about it, Joe, and I think of all the foul tips and all that, even caught with a soft hat for so many years. Didn't change until after I'd been in the big leagues for about 8 years. Got conked occasionally, and, you know, the coaches would say, rub a little dirt on it or hang in there. That's about all you got. There were no trips to the hospitals. Get a collision at home plate. But when you turn 50 and then you turn 60, you start thinking about it. About why the advances in medicine weren't made then. Well, that's the way it is in all sorts of maladies.
And as you said, you know, the National Football League has stepped out in front of this issue. They got a lot of criticism for not doing more sooner, but once the spotlight hit them, well, they're doing all kinds of things to try and add to the safety for players in what can be a brutal sport.
Oh yeah, admired so much, but these guys are human missiles. They go so fast. They often lead with their heads. Shots to the head.
That little scoop by Vogt on a pitch low for a ball, and the count evens 1 ball, 1 strike. It's even something that is going to be talked about a lot this year, that running backs are not allowed to lead with the crown of their helmet. They've got to have their head up.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And it's a rule change that's come under a lot of fire by running backs, especially fullbacks.
It's how they made their living for so long. How do you change?
Some images from today's game, which has been a well-pitched, good ball game. A 1-2-3 inning for Parker. We go to the bottom of the 6th. 3-2 A's.
Braves and Phillies. Philly took an early 3-0 lead, but the Braves have scored 4 unanswered. An RBI ground ball off the bat of Evan Gattis, giving Atlanta a 4-3 lead. Dodgers and Cubs, L.A. trying for a franchise record 13th straight road win. Scott Hairston's blooper got him on the board first. A 2-run single by Carl Crawford has since made it 3-0 L.A. as we get you back to Joe and Tim in Oakland.
Thank you, Matt. We go into the bottom of the 6th inning here, like they are doing in Philadelphia, and like they are at least in the 6th in that game at Wrigley Field. It will be Cespedes, then Moss, then Donaldson. A's leading by 1, and for Oakland, their bullpen. And Sean Doolittle getting loose as Parker may be finished. Strike 1 from Garza.
How about the Dodgers? They're leading at Wrigley Field over the Cubs, trying to win their 13th game in a row on the road.
A 3.5 game lead in the NL West. There is a swinging strike on Cespedes, strike 2. Yoenis hit a 2-run shot in the first inning. He flied to left his next time, and there is Doolittle, the hard-throwing left-hander. Part of a wicked back into the bullpen for Bob Melvin. He's got Doolittle, he's got Ryan Cook, and he's got Grant Balfour. That's outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Yoenis. Who's been hot of late. Last 5 games, just under 350. A's need him. Inside, 2-2.
We talked earlier about a right-handed hitter. I forget. I think it was Josh Donaldson, about tucking that left shoulder. Cespedes does it differently. He does it with his right arm. Notice that watching him take batting practice yesterday.
That is down and was 0-2. Now it's 3-2.
It's a shot you can get from low first. In fact, from the Texas Ranger dugout, you can watch him with that right arm tucking it in right as the pitch is on its way.
(3-2). A strikeout starts the inning, and that's number 4 for Matt Garza. Leadoff man is gone, and here is the elbow tucking of Yoenis Cespedes.
A little reminder to stay in, stay closed. Good fastball from Garza.
Not as demonstrative as Joe Morgan.
No,
used to
that's
be.
good. That's a very good. What is that? Joe, very demonstrative with that left arm, of course. One of the great second basemen to ever grace the game.
Good breaking ball from Garza, strike one. Brandon singled his first time, grounded out his next, and that was the last hitter that Garza retired in a 9-up, 9-down stretch that he had earlier in the ball game. But after a rough first inning, 3 runs, 4 hits, Garza's been terrific. Strike two on the foul out of play, with Donaldson on deck. Nothing and 2 the count. 1 out, nobody on, in the infield playing Brandon Moss to pull. Ball 1. Brandon's slugging percentage very good over the last couple of years among first basemen. 4th best. Name you don't hear a lot on the national level, but he is a big part of the success here. Back end of last year, and first place club here in 2013. In fact, the best record in the American League since the 1st of July last year at 120 and 72.
52 games over 500. You think about Brandon Moss last year, platooning at first base with Chris Carter, and out of that position they had 37 home runs. 37.
He waits for a 1-2 pitch, and Moss hits it in the air to center, got under it a bit, and he can't see it. Dropped by Martin, and it'll go as a ground rule double. And there is another example of how, even at this level, with this high sky and the glare, it is really hard to catch routine fly balls.
I'll tell you, there's no sympathy in baseball, but if there is anybody who can be sympathetic to outfielders and infielders when they visit the Coliseum here, it's any baseball fan who's followed the game for a long time. That ball is frightening coming down, and Martin just puts his hands over his head. He doesn't know where the thing is.
And so it goes as a ground rule double, and it's another example at the end of a week here with the weather conditions being what they are. Ron Washington talked about it before the game. Manager of the Rangers said, I hope it stays overcast, but it usually burns off around 11 o'clock. It did just that. As a strike is into Donaldson, who's 1 for 2.
And guess what? It gets worse in October.
Which is where these A's are headed with the way they're playing. Moss gets the double. He's 2 for 3 on a ball that under other conditions would have been an easy out. That's over but low. 1 ball, 1 strike. So Garza has to try and pitch around that. You mentioned Josh Hamilton and the ball that he missed in center field in the final game last year.
Stands out, right?
While playing obviously for Texas here against the A's. That's in the dirt. And Moss was a little bit off. He had a pretty good leaping lead, but was off when that ball was in the dirt, and the count 2-1. What worked against Hamilton in that example was the way he nonchalantly went after it.
Yeah.
Martin, you can see he was struggling with it as that ball was making its way toward him.
Anything but nonchalanting it.
Here's a fly ball into left. Another chance for an outfielder in the sunshine. It's Murphy. He makes the play, 2 out, and let's take a look back. First to the play by Hamilton last year in game 162, dropped. And then this is just this week here in Oakland. And he can make great major league ball players look like little leaguers or a fan trying to catch pop-ups before the game because of the glare and what these outfielders have to fight. That's today, and moments ago Martin. So Garza trying to get around it. He's 2 outs now in the inning, and Josh Reddick standing in his way.
The thing that makes the Coliseum worse, it seems to me, is that that problem pervades all outfield positions, not just left or right as Candlestick Park did. Wrigley Field was a tough right field to play for years. But here at Fenway Park, famous October play that Lou Piniella made in the 1978 163rd game of the year.
Here's a 1-0 from Garza to Reddick. Instead, he steps off and looks back at Moss. Throw down to second. They had a shot at Moss, who was wandering a bit too far, able to get back. A 1-1 count on the hitter Reddick. Josh was bothered by a bad wrist earlier in the year, and for a hitter, it's one of the worst spots that can be injured, like a pitcher with a bad arm.
Yeah.
Struck out looking his last time. 0 for 2 on the day. Runner at second, 2 out. And now 2 strikes on Reddick.
If it weren't for baseball, unless you're an orthopedic surgeon, the word hamate, H-A-M-A-T-E, you'd never know anything about that.
Would never hear of it.
It's a bone in the wrist that is so necessary for hitters.
There's Cayaspo stretching his hamate in the on-deck circle. Runner at second, 2 out. And a foul back to the screen by Reddick. The big piece of the trade that went the other way to Boston has been shut down. Andrew Bailey, who was injured last year, is injured again for the Boston Red Sox. A team that is in first place at the start of the day. A game better than the Tampa Bay Rays, who had a 21-5 month of July. Tampa Bay, which is the best month of baseball by a ball club since 1945.
That's after being in last place on June 22nd.
Another 1-2 pitch from Garza, and he jammed him. A lot of room to run in foul territory here, and Moreland ends the inning. Good work by Garza. He's been good today. We go to the 7th inning, and on the strength of that 3-run first inning, still it's 3-2 Oakland. Back after this from your local Fox station. Baseball is presented by Budweiser. Going to the 7th inning, 3-2 game. Oakland still on top. Jared Parker's day is finished. He goes 6 through 107 pitches. 2 runs on 6 hits, 6 strikeouts, a couple of walks. He can only be the winner, and he will deal with Jeff Baker to start it. Pinch hitting for Mitch Moreland. So a pinch hitter to start the inning, Baker, and then Martin, and then Andrews, ball 1. Doolittle, the hard-throwing left-hander, brings it, and a swinging strike. You've got Doolittle, you've got Ryan Cook and Balfour, so in this game with a 2.5-game lead in the AL West, Bob Melvin is going with one of his 3 big weapons out of the bullpen here in the 7th. His 1-1 pitch to Baker is inside.
Talking to Bob Rose, who is the great public relations director for the Athletics, and telling us a story about Sean Doolittle that is one of the Athletics' real success stories.
Here is a foul out of play in the count, 2-2.
He was a first baseman and a very thought very highly of as a hitter, and hurt his knee 4 years ago, his right knee. And someone remembered that he was a pitcher at the University of Virginia, and had such a good arm that they thought, why not give him a shot? He raced through 3 classifications last year. Stockton, Midland, Sacramento. In fact, he went through the minor league system so fast that Bob Melvin told him to bring his stuff to Oakland. He said, they're scattered all over the place. My car's in Stockton. My suitcases are in Midland. And he said, I've got other stuff in Sacramento. And here he is in the big leagues.
Here's a foul ball that is caught by Brandon Moss on a real good play.
That's the difference of being a home team with the sun advantage and a visiting team right there. Fine play by Moss.
Made it look easy, 1 out here in the 7th inning, and Martin will be the hitter. Brandon Moss, a good play, and Doolittle will work to Martin. The knee injury almost cost Doolittle 3 full years. And then he kind of, as you said, surprised everybody last year, came up on June 4th.
I mean, taking the chance on him. That's what the Oakland Athletics do better than anybody else. It seems like their chances work more often than most organizations.
That's how you have a book written about your organization, and you have a movie.
Fairness,
and
that's right.
Brad
Moneyball.
Pitt plays you.
Yep. The 26th highest payroll in the majors.
Here is what a play by Donaldson. 2 outs. He may not win the Gold Glove, but he's every bit as good as anybody in this league in making plays. The former catcher, he shows his range to his left.
Boy, can he pick it. Fine play by Donaldson. We've seen Moss, a converted outfielder, had never played first base, make a nice play. Donaldson, converted catcher, make another nice play. To the A's are.
2 out, nobody on for Elvis Andrews. Elvis is 0 for 2 with a walk. 15-game hitting streak is in jeopardy here as he bats in the 7th inning, and he takes a ball. Time for our Just for Men mustache and beard play like a champ profile, and it's how he has turned his season around, or is trying to, comparing before the All-Star break to what he's done since, hitting .339 with that 15-game hitting streak. Count 1-0 from Doolittle. That's foul. 1 ball, 1 strike. Elvis struck out in the 1st inning, walked in the 3rd, grounded out in the 5th. And trying to get on in front of Kinsler, who homered in his last at bat.
Yeah, for the most part, Doolittle has done it with one pitch, the fastball. Has not been a pitcher long enough to really work on any kind of breaking ball other than maybe a slider.
Here's a base hit. The hitting streak is now at 16 games for Elvis Andrus. He's on with 2 out. And with nobody getting ready in the bullpen for the A's, it brings in a matchup of Ian Kinsler against Sean Doolittle. Ian went deep, home run number 10 his last time up. That was against Jared Parker, who is in line for the win today if the bullpen can hang on. 2 outs here in the top of the 7th. Doolittle brings it. Kinsler wants to give it a look, and he takes strike 1. The anchor in this bullpen is Grant Balfour, who's 28 of 29 in save opportunities this season. That is foul, strike 2. His right-handed setup man was an all-star last year as a closer, Ryan Cook. And that's one of the reasons why the A's are good in one-run games. It's why they hang on to leads when they are leading after 7. They are 48-2. Here's the 0-2. Runner goes on ball 1, and the throw down way late. Now a base hit ties it. Good time to run for Elvis Andrus, who has 25 stolen bases on the season.
5 straight years of 20+, and what a jump he had. You know, he decoyed Doolittle there. He had his hands on his knees, and when a left-handed pitcher looks at a base runner with his hands on his knees, he does not think he's going to run.
The inning is over. A strikeout ends it, and Doolittle fires a scoreless 7th. It's time to stretch in Oakland. Still a 1-run game with the A's coming up. 3-2. A's on top. America's new sports network is coming August 17th. And by Just for Men Auto Stop, the foolproof way to get rid of gray. Jeff Baker, who pinch hit for Mitch Moreland, will just take his spot defensively. He's at first base. Alberto Callaspo will lead off against Matt Garza, who's turned in a solid start, but He and the Rangers trail by 1. Kayaspo 0 for 2. He's lined out. He's flied out. He's hit the ball hard twice. Pitch number 88 for Garza's ball 1, down and away as Ryan Cook gets ready for the A's in their bullpen. Doolittle a scoreless 7th. We're in the bottom half, 3-2 Oakland. That's up and away, 2-0. Garza, after a long day of pitching on that mound here in Oakland, starts digging at that landing area. And now ready with a 2-0 pitch. He was digging around the right spot. He found his landing spot and found a strike. It's 2-1.
Obviously, that landing area changes with different pitchers depending on their height, their stride.
Strike 2. Garza's a free agent to be. That's why he was on the block, as the Rangers traded 3 young players to get him. Here's a 2-2. Full count. C.J. Edwards, a right-hander. Biggest pitching prospect given up in that deal, and Mike Olt, a third baseman. 2 of the 3. Here is a 3-2 pitch from Garza, and Kayaspo fouls it away. Garza's from Fresno, played at Fresno State.
Right on the outskirts of Yosemite Park. One of the real wonders of the world. Beautiful.
With a full count, Garza ready with the next for Kayaspo, and a check swing on ball 4. And that is the first walk handed out by Garza today. As we begin the 7th, we go for a game break. Here's Matt Vasgersian.
Joe, Atlanta and Philly, and with 2 out against reliever Luis Ayala. Oakland native Jimmy Rollins strikes for an RBI double that ties it at 4. Career hit number 2,132 for J-Roll. Just 103 hits away from passing Mike Schmidt for the most in franchise history. Back to you guys.
All right, Matt, a nice note for Jimmy Rollins, one of the good guys in this game. And there's a look at the NL East, which is at this point a runaway for Atlanta. Here's Vogt, shows bunt, takes a ball. You've got Jurickson Profar, who is charging from third. Jeff Baker in from first. I'm sure the A's consider that a big run sitting out there if they can get Kayaspo into scoring position. Up by 1 here in the 7th. And the bunt by Vogt is perfect. 1 out, down to second is Kayaspo on the sacrifice bunt by Stephen Vogt.
Joe, hearing Matt Vasgersian refer to Jimmy Rollins as an Oakland native, and he is certainly that. A good bunt by Vogt, by the way. I think of this area and McClymonds High, that had some of the greatest athletes this country has ever seen, including Bill Russell, Frank Robinson, Vada Pinson, Curt Flood. McClymonds High here in Oakland, a famous high school. I don't think Rollins went there, but there were a lot of other famous athletes that graced that high school.
Here's Coco Crisp, swinging strike 1. Coco is 1 for 3. A bunt base hit, a run scored in the first. He's flying to left, flying to right. Got a runner sitting out there at second base, 1 out, with his team up by 1 in the 7th. Good ball game between these top 2 teams in the AL West. Here's the 0-1. Fly ball into right. That ball is down for a base hit. Callaspo did not get a good break, and he makes it to third on a base hit to right by Coco Crisp.
He was not the only guy who didn't get a good break. You look at Nelson Cruz, his first move was to put the glove up. Couldn't see the ball. He didn't know where it was. Normally he catches that ball. He's talking to Martine right here. But his first move, the glove went up to his eyes. Then he bobbles the ball. If you're Callaspo, there's no way to get a good jump right there. If there were two out, he scores easily, of course.
Well, it presents Sogard, who's 1 for 2, and who has been a red-hot hitter for the A's, with a first and third one-out opportunity, and anything is on the board right now for the A's. Trying to get that extra run home, leading by 1 at the moment, with Ryan Cook getting loose, with Grant Balfour lurking later in the bullpen. That is a big run standing there at third base. And the bunt is not out of the question. Jurickson Profar, the third baseman, is in at third. Here's a bunt attempt. Back to the pitcher. Only play to first. A run scores. It's 4-2.
Great call, partner. Now, I'll tell you what made the bunt more inevitable was Garza's fielding. He underhands the ball to first base. There is no way he was going to come home with that ball. That's a safety squeeze. The runner at third doesn't break right away. And Sogard just gets the ball down, bunts it back to Garza, and no telling how many teams are going to take advantage of that if the Rangers reach postseason.
So it goes down as an RBI for Sogard, his 20th of the year. The base hit into right by Crisp, a big part of it that sent Callaspo to third. He scores. He led off in the inning with a walk. And it's a 2-run game. And these A's continue to prove that they can do the little things that help them win ball games. Little things offensively and big arms in their rotation and out of their bullpen.
One extreme to the other, huh? Little things to big arms. Well put.
And Bob Melvin has this team playing extremely well. Lowry now in the hole, 0-2. Up over 100 pitches on the day is Garza. He got around that sun-aided double last inning. Could not get around the base hit by Crisp on a ball where Nelson Cruz did not get a great break on it out in right. Then the perfect bunt by Sogard. Nice block by Soto. Ball 1. In the 8th inning against Ryan Cook, it'll be the big bats of Beltre and Nelson Cruz, the top 2 run producers for the Rangers, the first 2 up. Another run sitting out of there in scoring position with 2 out. That's Crisp. As this little chopper is out in front of the plate, and the inning is over. Good play by Soto to corral it, get the out. A run is in the bottom of the 7th. 4-2 A's on top as we go to the 8th.
It's this time, everybody.
After the bottom of the 7th inning, he's gone 7, 4 runs on 8 hits. He's pitched pretty well here today, and here is Garza, Tim, coming off the field after the 7th.
Yeah, it appears that he's screaming at the Oakland bench, and when a pitcher has a problem doing one area, he doesn't, or with dealing with one area, he doesn't want the opposition to take advantage of it, like bunting when he has a problem. Well, the way to solve that is to solve your problem of throwing the ball to first base, and then they won't bunt. But right now, he is mad at the Oakland team for taking advantage of his inability to throw to first on routine plays.
That, or they're getting on him from the dugout?
I don't think so. I think the bunt enough, the safety squeeze that you called was enough to get him riled up. Don't know.
Ryan Cook takes over. The count 0-2, and now one bounces in. So here's the other part that helps sets up Grant Balfour. Ryan Cook, a former starter with the Arizona organization, part of that deal that brought Jared Parker, today's starter, to the A's. So a great trade made by the front office. And Cook has figured out this relief thing. He came up in July as a reliever in 2011, traded to Oakland, was an all-star closer last year. His desire is to get back into that role, but right now he is Grant Balfour's right-handed setup man. His 2-2 pitch, and he looks like he's got to be really tough to pick up as he wraps the ball behind him.
Yeah, tough to catch too. You know, the other way to look at it, Joe, is that the Athletics have 2 closers, Cook and Balfour.
We saw Garza kicking at that landing area when he was last on the mound, and you could see Cook looking back at that spot after his footing was a little bit off on that 2-2 pitch, and so he gets a visit from his pitching coach Kurt Young. And while they talk, we'll talk, and remind you that this year Fox Sports Supports is proud to partner with Stomp Out Bullying, the leading national anti-bullying organization for kids and teens in the United States. Stomp Out Bullying focuses on preventing bullying in all forms of digital abuse. It educates against racism and hatred, deters violence in schools and online, and helps at-risk students to learn how you can help. Please visit stompoutbullying.org. And now they're going to actually bring the grounds crew out and work on that area before a 3-2 pitch. Garza still hot in that dugout. We'll give you more about the A's. Led the division 18 times in franchise history on the 1st of August. They've only missed the playoff 3 times when they've done that. 3.5 game division lead through August 1st, 2013. They know what they want to do at the plate. They lead baseball in walks per games played, and the pitchers on their side have allowed the fewest walks in Major League Baseball, and they do a lot of little things very well, and that's why they lead this division and have the best record in the league since the 1st of July last year. Well, now Ron Washington's going to come out after Mike Maddox was out to say this is like bringing out the snowblower before your field goal kicker tries a game-winning field goal. It's home field advantage. Garza was having trouble with that area, and now that Cook is, they bring out the grounds crew to try and fix it. And Ron Washington wants more of an explanation as he goes to the crew chief, Dale Scott. Maybe Garza yelling back, maybe this is a reach, and now Maddox is going to help in this argument, mild as it is. And I think Garza might have been mad at the mound, as silly as that sounds.
He's yelling at the mound.
Yeah, as crazy as that sounds. And he was just yelling no warm-up pitches, but Cook gets warm-up pitches, and this is the home field advantage.
I think, Joe, common sense dictates right here. I mean, at least Cook should have a couple of throws. But now home plate umpire Dale Scott appears to be appeased. But if Garza was having problems with the mound, why didn't he call for the ground crew to come out and fix it?
So it's a 3-2 count on Adrian Beltre.
I've seen pitchers do a lot of things, but the one thing I have never seen them do is yell at a mound.
Here's a 3-2. Fouled back. But you have seen pitchers yell at inanimate objects.
Oh, yes. Yes, I've had pitchers treat me as an inanimate object.
Both when you played and when you announced.
Oh, yes. Maybe the latter more than the former.
The stare through. I get it too. It's fun. Here's a 3-2 pitch again to Beltre and another foul ball. And Vogt, who took a baseball bat off the top of that batting helmet on his head earlier in the game, now gets a foul tip off the mask. But he's still in there. And crouched down waiting for another 3-2 from Ryan Cook. Popped up on the infield, and somebody will try and make this play. It's Sogard. 1 out. And there is nothing routine when that ball goes into the air.
No, it's not.
These infielders are looking at each other like, you want it?
Yeah. Nelson Cruz. Well, there is some comfort in playing here every day. You know that it's going to be a problem, but when you come in here for 3 or 4 days, it is tough, and the Rangers can certainly tell you that.
One out, nobody on. Here's Nelson Cruz, and that fastball at 96 rides up and in on the Texas right fielder. This guy's got movement, and he's tough to see. Here's a 1-0 on the outside corner, a ball and a strike.
It's funny, he ran the count to 3-0. They fixed the hole. He came back to get Beltre.
1 ball, 1 strike on Cruz, who has flied to left, bounced into a force out and popped up. Strike 2. Garza, by the way, is going to head back out there and work in the bottom of this 8th inning. The 1-2 pitch. Breaking ball stays inside, 2-2. Cook's 2-2 pitch. Left side. Donaldson gets it on the second bounce and gooses it across the infield. Moss bails him out. 2 out. And Nelson Cruz, we saw him go to his right, make that running catch on Crisp in the 5th inning, and he is not running well at all.
Boy, that's a struggle.
But he may have plenty of time coming up to let that heal. If that suspension is handed down, like many believe could happen tomorrow or Monday, they keep pushing that finish line back day after day. But if he accepts it, doesn't fight it, doesn't appeal it, that would be it. 50 games left in the season, and that would be the end of Nelson Cruz for the Texas Rangers the rest of the regular year. Here's Murphy, popped up left side, foul ball. A play for Donaldson. He is there, and he has it to end the inning. Bottom of the 8th, rolls in. Garza, it appears, will head back to work. Oakland on top 4-2. Roads. And by Bud Light Lime Limerita, and introducing new Strawberita. Well, the issues with the hamstring or groin or hip or whatever it is for Nelson Cruz, it's going to cost him the rest of the game as Craig Gentry takes over in center. That moves Martin over to right. And the Rangers watch Nelson Cruz try and get down the line on that ground out in the top of this 8th inning, and that's it. Here's Cespedes first up, and he flies one into center right into the game as Gentry, and Martin says, you go catch that. I'll be over here and right watching. 1 out.
It's amazing. Defensive replacements sometimes considered the toughest job in baseball, and it seems like that little white rat can find you immediately.
Gentry will bat in Cruz's number 5 spot. If this game gets there. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning, 1 out. Here's Brandon Moss, who is 2 for 3. He hit the ball that Martin could not find in the sunshine in the 6th. Went for a double. Garza makes a pretty good pitch. It's called ball 1. And now ball 2. Now action starts for the Rangers out in their bullpen as Robbie Ross, a left-hander, gets loose. Here comes a 2-0 pitch. Fouled back, and Brandon Moss took a big cut on 2-0.
He had a pitch to hit. And really, in fairness to Garza, he has not given up a lot of pitches to hit by the Athletics today. The 1 home run by Cespedes was a pretty good pitch.
Here's a 2-0 pitch now, and it's high, 3-1. I think all things considered, Garza's thrown a pretty good game.
Yeah, I do too. But I am surprised he's back out there with his pitch count and all the things that. And normally he's a 7-inning guy. He was with the Cubs. But once again, with everything that's happened today and the propensity of the A's to bunt against Garza, it's going to be very interesting if the Rangers make it to postseason to see what other teams do.
3 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out, nobody on. Donaldson on deck. 8th inning of a 2-run game. That keeps it 3-2. Mentioned with regard to the A's as they get their closer Grant Balfour ready. This is a team that is tough to beat when they lead after 7, 48-2. Rangers even tougher, and that's because of Joe Nathan at the back end of their pen. Here's a fly ball into left. Murphy back in front of the track. 2 out. So Garza is 1 out away from getting through 8. And it's time now for our fan cam. Fox Sports 1 fan cam caught fans here at the ballpark who are excited about Fox Sports 1, America's new sports network, coming August 17th. 2 out, nobody on. Here is Donaldson, 1 for 3. On deck is Reddick, and the bullpen is Ross, so this could be it for Garza if he cannot get the guy who's been the most productive hitter for the A's this season, Josh Donaldson, who came in hitting just under 300. Not a 300 hitter in this lineup, yet a first place position for the A's. A 1-0. Good breaking ball. Strike 1. Top run producer for the A's is the man at the plate, with his 61 RBIs. That is called strike 2. In the 9th inning for Texas, it'll be the bottom 3 in their lineup. I'm sure we'll see A.J. Pierzynski before the end of the day. Soto, Profar, and Baker are the scheduled hitters. Here's a 1-2. The strikeout ends the inning and sends this one into the 9th. Bottom of the order coming up. Balfour will come in and try for save number 29. He and the A's lead it 4-2. Presented by Budweiser as we go into the 9th inning. It's a 2-run A's lead. And this is what they do when Grant Balfour takes over trying to save it.
A lot of animation right there.
He is not the only change. By the way, that's the rage that they do here in Oakland. Taking over behind the plate is Derek Norris. And you just have to hope that Vogt is okay after getting hit on the head with the bat of Profar earlier, and then a foul tip off the mask about an inning ago. So Norris is in the game, as is Balfour, and this is what's hanging in the balance. A's trying to win here to force a rubber game tomorrow and increase their lead in the AL West to 3.5. It was a lead of 6 games on the morning of this past Tuesday. And first up is Giovanni Soto. Profar on deck, and then the number 9-man Baker, but Pierzynski's got his batting helmet on, and we could see him before the end of this game. I was speculating, then you threw in with me during the All-Star game, that with just the demeanor of Balfour on the mound when he was pitching at Citi Field in New York, that maybe something was wrong. He might have injured himself. But that's just his deal, the way he builds himself up when he is pitching, is he brings in strike 1 to Giovanni Soto.
Yeah, and that was our first time that we'd seen Balfour,
the new Balfour
for a couple of years since his days at Tampa Bay. And I told him yesterday, I said, you know, Joe and I thought that you might have been injured during the All-Star game at Citi Field, he said, "Did you see me last night?" That was referring to Thursday when he got a save in that game. And so I said, yeah, I did. I saw you on television. He gives me a fist bump, and he said, I've got to go inside and try to find out a way to get these guys out. He is a beauty.
Australian-born right-hander, and he has taken over at the back end of this terrific bullpen for the A's. He's 0-2 on Soto starting the 9th inning. Rangers need a base runner to have a chance. And that 94-mile-per-hour fastball is up for ball one. He has taken to the role of closer and did so last year at the age of 34. So it's come late in his career. And a representative for these A's in the All-Star game, he's only blown one. That bounces in 2-2. So Derek Norris behind the plate. 9th inning of a 2-run game. Soto is 0 for 3 with a pair of strikeouts, and he's flied out. Trying to figure out Grant Balfour, and not many hitters have.
Might be the water in the Bay Area. Balfour reminds me a little of Brian Wilson, who just, without the beard, of course. Brian just signing a minor league deal with the Dodgers.
Strikeout starts the inning, one away. Time for the King play of the game, brought to you by Burger King, where taste is king. Yoenis Cespedes in the first inning, a 2-run shot. Made it 3-0. Then 3-1, 3-2, 4-2 after the A's got a run in the 7th. And that home run for Cespedes, number 17 on the year. Number 40 in his big league career. By the way, Ryan Cook pitched a perfect 8th after Doolittle pitched a scoreless 7th. And now Balfour has one out here in the 9th. Here's Profar. Switch hitting third baseman today. Breaking ball drops in, strike one. A.J. Pierzynski comes into the on-deck circle. Profar 1 for 3 on the day. And Balfour kind of a quirky reliever.
Yeah.
Quirky and effective. Is 0-1. Ball one.
It's kind of part of the mindset of a closer. You almost have to exhibit that either within yourself or outwardly, and Grant chooses to do it outwardly, obviously. Brian Wilson the same way with the stare. Al Raboski of the St. Louis Cardinals, the Mad Hungarian they called him. Raleigh Fingers with the mustache. Menacing.
That is foul. Strike 2. You saw Joe Nathan a moment ago. If not for Mariano Rivera doing what he's done and doing it again this season, by the way, the effectiveness of Joe Nathan has been unbelievable since taking over as a closer.
30 saves plus and an ERA under 2, 5 straight years. The only closer to do that, Mariano Rivera. Of course, he's done it for a lot more than 5 years.
12
in a row. Yeah, 12 to be exact.
1 ball, 2 strikes, 1 out, nobody on. Balfour brings it, and that puts Profar on his back.
Players, it's kind of a new statement of running into a fastball. That means their bat would run into it. They're really not talking about their bodies.
Both feet for an instant were off the ground.
Like he slipped on ice.
And the count 2-2. A swing and a miss struck him out, and Profar is upset at that pitch up and in. Ends his at bat, 2 down in the inning. A defensive swing and another pitch up and in from Balfour.
You don't see that too often, where a hitter swings and falls down. Tried to hold up and couldn't.
So now 2 out, and here is A.J. Pierzynski, the last hope for the Rangers. Remember how this week started with 3 straight walk-off wins against the Angels. Pierzynski part of that on Monday. Then it was Martin on Tuesday. Adrian Beltre on Wednesday. Ball 1 down and in. Rangers have won 5 straight. And they cut what was a 6-game lead in the AL West down to a 2.5-game lead, but in trouble here this afternoon, down by 2 with 2 out in the ninth. Little flare on the infield, should end it. Sogard's got it, and the A's win it 4-2. Balfour gets the save. A 2-hour, 57-minute game. Parker the winner, 7-6. Garza the loser, now 1-1 with the Rangers. For Ken and Tim, I'm Joe. There's the AL West as the A's win it